Right, let's bring in now the host of Crain and Company. Jake Crain is joining us from the Daily Wires Sports channel. Absolutely delighted, Jake, to have you on board. How are you doing, brother?
Man, I'm doing great. Really appreciate you guys having me. Really enjoy listening to your guys' conversation, and it's an amazing time in the sports world. Got NFL, college football, college basketball. A lot of the other professional sports are going, but no, I appreciate y'all having me.
You guys cover a huge amount of college football on your channel. Go there and I'm watching your breakdowns, watching your discussions, and we wanted to start off with a little bit on the guys who have come into the NFL this year, right? A historic quarterback draft class, 6 going in the first 12 picks. From what you're seeing, the one I want to ask about is Bo Nix, who some people are talking about in this offensive rookie of the year conversation now. How surprised have you been what he's managed to achieve in Denver, considering what you saw of him coming out of college?
Well, you know, with Bo Nix, and, you know, he went to Auburn and then Oregon. I'm from Auburn. Used to have him on the show all the time, know his family really well. It doesn't surprise me for a couple reasons. One, he was raised in a football family. You look at his father, Patrick Nix, was a quarterback. He was, as we like to say on our show, bathed in the waters of the quarterbacking river as a youngin', and then was able to stay in college for a long time. And you're starting to see that kind of come to fruition in the NFL. Guys being able to play longer in college, they seem to be a little bit more prepared when they take that next step up. But what I think separates Bo Nix and having Sean Payton there is, you know, obviously Sean targeted him, identified him early, and wanted him. But the thing about Bo that I think a lot of people don't realize is his athleticism, not only to be able to run and take off when it's not there, when he sees man coverage, the DB's backs are turned, but his ability to elongate the play from inside the pocket and outside of the pocket. And it's, you know, as a former defensive coordinator, nothing used to scare me more than when the play would break down and the quarterback could make it outside of the pocket, keep his eyes down the field when it turns into a scramble drill, but then also be able to stay in the pocket, step up in the pocket, keep his eyes downfield, and let the routes develop and kind of protect himself even if the protection isn't fantastic. So as far as cerebrally, from a football IQ standpoint, Bo Nix was really far ahead, and his athleticism and the coaching staff, I think, has been a really good mix. And there's some other young guys on the Broncos that have come along with him. You look at Franklin, who was at Oregon with him at wide receiver. So it's a really good situation, and I think you got a lot to look forward to if you're a Broncos fan.
It's kind of fascinating to me, and maybe it comes down to just like the NFL kind of draft industrial complex. But if somebody only heard you talk about Bo Nix there, they'd think you were talking about a nailed-on #1 overall pick. And yet most people had a late first, second round grade on him. And when Sean Payton came out in those days after they drafted him and was saying, no, this is our guy, this is the guy we wanted, I think a lot of us thought that was bluster rather than legitimate. Like, if he'd been, the opportunity at Caleb, or the opportunity at Drake May, he would have taken them in a heartbeat. So I guess in a way it's refreshing that it has worked out in that way for him. But do we put too much stock? I'm looking at this year's coming draft class and trying to figure out where guys are going to land. Do we maybe get a little too obsessive on the idea of, right, here's the rankings, here's what Daniel Jeremiah said, here's what X has said, so that must be the quality that they're coming out in?
Well, yeah, I think we do, but it's fun, right? I mean, anything that you're super passionate about, you may get a little bit too deep into. I think maybe one of the most overlooked things, and something that doesn't get talked about enough, it's not just who you're drafting, it's where they're going. I mean, look at where Jaden Daniels is right now with the Commanders and the pieces they have around him. Brian Robinson Jr., Terry McLaurin, I can go down the list. You know, if you're going to a team that has a bad offensive line, like Bryce Young and the Panthers, regardless of the ingredients, football is the ultimate team sport. This isn't baseball where you can go out there and have a pitcher throw 9 innings, give up no runs, and win 1-0. It's not basketball where you can have LeBron James go out there, have a triple-double, and win you the game. It's the ultimate team sport. So having a young guy going into a situation that he can feel comfortable with and he doesn't have to do everything is a huge piece of it. And I think Sean Payton really realized that. Now, when you do look at guys like Jaden Daniels and Caleb Williams, all the ingredients are there. It's just the situation that you're stepping into, and it's not just personnel, it's system, right? I know we call it a pro-style offense. We do that because a lot of it is similar. It's a copycat league. It bleeds down into college, even though college is kind of bleeding up a little bit into the NFL. But you really got to look at where they're going, the system they're going in, and the personnel they have around them, including a run game that sets up not only a way to keep yourself balanced on offense, but it's also a form of protection in the play-action pass and, you know, having some semblance of balance and where a defense can't just pigeonhole you and you're living in 3rd and 8.
You just mentioned system. I could not agree with you more, but specifically for Caleb Williams, who Heisman Trophy winner, ton of talent, dual threat, great arm, but he also had issues at USC. He wasn't perfect. His last season, to some people, was a disappointment. He goes to the Bears. The fans want their franchise quarterback, but they also have coaching issues. They have an offensive coordinator issue. From your perspective, is the fit bad for Caleb Williams, or are we also seeing Caleb Williams showing some of the problems that he had in college, and this will be more of a 2-3 year project for this guy to really win at a high level?
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, I think you nailed it when you talk about the dysfunction. I mean, if you're going to bring a young person into a home, you want that home to be functional and put them in the best situation possible. Caleb Williams is walking into an organization that feels like he's going to be their hero. Don't forget, guys, the Bears didn't draft Patrick Mahomes and had a chance to do it. So this fan base has been begging for somebody that has some innate ability, that can throw off platform, that can make those wow plays that they feel like they missed out on. But again, the pieces around him really don't put him in the best position possible. And I'm not taking all the blame away from Caleb Williams. He holds onto the ball pretty long. We saw that in college. But to me, this is the biggest test of Caleb Williams going forward. I know the Bears are going to go out there, whether they replace the coach, they replace the offensive coordinator, whatever, and bring in some pieces to continue to help them. Not that they have nothing, but they're dysfunctional across the board. But one of the knocks on Caleb Williams, and I don't know the answer to this yet, is he has some front runner in him. When it's going good, Caleb Williams is great. When it's not going good, Caleb Williams tends to add to those problems. And we got to see if he has the ability to lead in dark times, because that's when you find out everybody can be good when it's going great. But when it's going tough, even as a young guy, can you be that leader? Can you be that mature guy in the locker room that says, look, guys, hop on my back. We're going to figure this out, even if it takes a while. So that's what I want to see with Caleb Williams. But by far and away, guys, Caleb Williams is not the biggest problem that the Bears have. What's going on with Eberflus, I mean, he can't even get his phone to work when they call into the local radio shows there. So it seems there's a little bit of cart going before the horse in that situation.
I think what you point out about him being a front runner is key. But I think actually, when we saw Caleb Williams in London, he played probably his best game of the season because he wasn't pushing too hard. He wasn't constantly looking for the way to prove himself, the way to win. Too often I'm seeing Caleb Williams step up to the line of scrimmage with a really well thought out play. They've got quads to one side of the formation. They've got the look that they want. They've got everything set up for them. And almost because he's trying to prove himself, he'll make a check and he'll change things. And it's like, Caleb, just take that opportunity. And we talked about this about Mahomes earlier. Grip it and rip it. Just make the play that's there for you. And I think that's what Thomas Brown did this week, was he made it much easier for him to just be Caleb Williams instead of trying to prove that he's Peyton Manning, which Peyton Lee's not.
Well, the best way to beat complexity is with simplicity. We see this on the defensive side of the ball all the time. We used to have teams that we'd play against have 500,000 different formations because they want you to spend time on each one of those formations and have 2 to 3 checks built off of that. When you realize, listen, if we can play man coverage and get away with it, or as we call it over here, cat coverage, I got that cat, you got that cat, he's got that cat, it tends to make things simpler and guys can play faster. But I do want to make this point. We talk about this on the defensive side of the ball as well with targeting and the unnecessary roughness, which don't even get me started on that. There's a balance between not taking your guy's stinger away, but playing smart. You want Caleb Williams to go out there and be himself. You want him confident enough to go in there and make those checks. But he does have to realize, especially in this league, you don't have to go there and try and square everything. If the look is decent enough, let's run the play. Let's go fast. Why do you see teams go up to? Why do you think sometimes quarterbacks in a 2-minute drill look amazing, but outside of the 2-minute drill, they seem to not be able to figure it out? Well, you're having to go fast for a reason, and you're taking the thinking out of it. So it's a tough line to walk. It's a tough balance to be able to achieve. Hey, we want you to have the full menu. If you want the all-star special, that's fine, but we can make you a steak as well. But let's also remember, just like McDonald's, if we're great at making hamburgers, let's just shut up and make hamburgers.
We'll get you out of here on this one, and we cannot go any farther, Will, without getting into somebody who's not going to be drafted next April, but he's going to be in the center of the entire draft. He also might be the future coach of the Dallas Cowboys, but Deion Sanders in Colorado. I don't know where your mock draft is right now, and for me, it's too early to have a real mock. But Travis Hunter, Shedeur Sanders, the New York Giants bench Daniel Jones. They're obviously tanking. Maybe they want to end up number 1, but you look at Colorado, Deion Sanders, there's so much going on, but there's no way around it. When the 2025 draft comes around, the Colorado Buffaloes and Deion Sanders are going to be in the center of all of this. How do you think this all plays out?
Well, the best part for the Giants, and probably the saddest part, is they don't have to try and tank. They can just go out there and play. I can't believe they benched Daniel Jones. But looking ahead, when you look at Shedeur and Travis, and you guys know this better than anybody, it comes down to need, right? If a team needs a quarterback and they're picking between Cam Ward and Shedeur, and they take Shedeur, well, that's what they need. But if I'm looking at somebody to hire, I want to hire the guy that can do the most things the best. And that's what Travis Hunter is, right? He's kind of a rarity. We've seen guys play both ways, but really not to this level and not being this effective. We'll see what happens at the NFL level. I think there's a better chance he plays wide receiver. But if I'm going to hire you to be a lawyer, I would love for you to be able to do all different type of cases, all different type of law. If I'm going to hire you to bag groceries, you need to be able to bag the Pringles can and the milk. So if I want to go get the best player that can provide me with the most avenues for them to have the success, and then in turn us to have success, I think Travis Hunter is going to be that guy. But I tell you, it's so impressive what Prime has done at Colorado. And, I get into arguments all the time on this show with our two other co-hosts. I think if Deion Sanders leaves Colorado, it won't be to stay in college. It will be to go to the NFL. Because deep down, we can sit here and talk about how he's resurrected the Colorado program and what he did earlier at the HBCU. But Deion Sanders is an NFL guy. And I think he views himself as an NFL guy. And that is the highest level of football. We already know what he did as a player. So I would not be shocked at all if once his sons leave, we see Deion Sanders with a job in the NFL while his son, Shedeur, definitely plays.
How does Jerry Jones not hire them? Mike McCarthy is gone. The dead man walking. How does Jerry Jones not hire Deion Sanders and let him go somewhere else?
Because Deion Sanders is a bigger name than he is. I think this is more about Jerry than it is anything else. You don't want, we see this in politics all the time.
Deion's too smart.
I may not
agree.
want to bring in I may not want to bring in the best vice president because they may overshadow me on the campaign trail. So you see the same thing with Jerry Jones. I think it's an ego thing, and it's a detriment to the Cowboys. So sitcom dad Mike McCarthy, he's probably on his way out. And again, I got a lot of respect for Mike and what he's done. But I don't think Jerry wants to bring in Prime because Prime is a bigger name than what Jerry is.
I really wanted to not believe the Deion Sanders thing was going to work. Like, you see him at small school, you see him in Kentucky, you see this kind of, like the bluster, the going on shows, the shooting people down on social media and in public, like just everything about it felt like it was meant to be a superstar that wasn't going to be able to actually handle the coaching side of it. And yet from everything you hear and everything you see on the field, he's really good at all of that stuff as well.
He is the coach for the NIL era. Like he is the, whether you love it or hate it, who understands playing both ways, making it all about himself, money, pay me before, you have to look good to play good. Who understands that better than Deion Sanders?
I think college, certainly in this country, is going through a little bit of a boon as well because obviously it's huge in the States, right? We know the coverage, we know the levels, we know that the playoffs expanding to 12 games, although we've seen you've had some thoughts on the playoff committee in recent days that maybe we could get into sometime. But I think over here, with the combination of those big coaches, big personalities, getting McAfee to do the college game day and all the clips that come out of that, and you're just seeing, I see so much more coverage over here. And I find it really,
he knows
a real
better.
boon.
The college football in America is the second biggest sport in America. There's the NFL and college football, and it destroys the NBA and everything else.
Guys, I've got a theory real quick on that. I know we got to get out of here, but I really believe if we want to either achieve world peace or destroy the world, we need to make college football global. Because it's either going to go one of those two ways with the amount of passion over there. And I challenge anybody, over on your guys' side of the pond, if you want to see an incredible atmosphere, come over to the United States, go to an SEC college football game on a Saturday, and it will absolutely blow your mind because it's our way of life versus their way of life every Saturday, and it's a lot of fun.
Brilliant stuff, Jake. Thank you so much for your time. Where can people find your channel, find your content?
Well, man, first off, thank you guys for having me. Again, got a lot of respect for the way you guys handle your business. We're really easy to find. Go to the Daily Wire, Daily Wire Plus. Go to YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. There's a bunch of other platforms. I'm not smart enough to understand where it's at, but it's Crain and Company. We have a good time. Like we say, we may not always agree, but we always have fun.
Jake, that was great.
Thank you very much.
You're still here as man, but thank you. That was good, brother.
Thank you, guys. Anytime you need us, please let us know.
All right,
Love it. Thank you so much, man. Jake, I thought was brilliant there.
That was fantastic.
I think I always talk to people about this when they ask me about going to watch games in the States and going to tailgating being a big thing of it, right? There's nothing better for me than going and seeing an NFL game in person, particularly if I get to go as a fan. But I've been to some college football games that have absolutely blown my mind. And you go to the big house, or I always use the example, I went to a Penn State whiteout game at Beaver Stadium against Michigan that went to 4 periods of overtime, and there were 107,000 people there, all dressed in white, loud the entire time. And I've never experienced anything like it. It was like an out-of-body experience.
So,
wild.
Speaking of somebody who lived most of their life in the United States and covered American sports for 20 years, college football, I mean, we could spend the whole program on this, but college football, far better atmosphere than the NFL. The only thing, and he was 100% right, the only thing that's comparable to the passion, the power, the pageantry, the colors of fans of college football is Premier League. And that's one of the things I've loved so much about Premier League is you go to a match and the fans, the cheer, just you don't get that as much from the NFL. The NFL, as much as they're into it for me, it's a little more professional. The passion that comes out of college football, and it's why American fans love it so much. The only thing that's comparable is Premier League and the passion that the supporters have over here. I think he was 100% on about that.